As Disney's Snow White crashes and burns at the box office, being beaten out by none other than Chuck Dixon's A Working Man, the mainstream media has taken a rather unexpected approach in rallying around and defending the lead actress in the struggling live-action remake, Rachel Zegler. With one media outlet calling the box office, quote, a majestic milestone. It's quite the claim that has to be seen to be believed, and one of our panelists might have a lot to say in an epic rant by the end of it. Let's talk about Coillider defending Rachel Zegler from the box office bomb that is Disney's Snow White, and examine just how bad the fallout might be for the creatively stalled studio here on That Park Place.
Guys, I watched a movie not that long ago, and it was one of the worst movies that I have ever seen, considering the budget. A dollar for dollar, definitely the worst movie that I have ever seen.
Worse than movie, Short Circuit?
Yes. You had to bring that up. Let's talk about this. Snow White, this $300 million-ish atrocity, has been crushed at the box office by Working Man, which is based on a comic book by Chuck Dixon over there at the Rippaverse. Well, now, I need to say that it's not a Rippaverse comic. It is Chuck Dixon who currently works with the Rippaverse. But he is a comic legend, and his movie is #1 at the box office. Over the weekend, Disney's $250 million Snow White remake starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot was officially dethroned, not by a Marvel juggernaut or a billion-dollar franchise, by a modest budget action film based on a novel by Chuck Dixon, one of the most celebrated comic writers of the past 40 years. A Working Man, directed by David Ayer. By the way, David Ayer, good for him to get a box office win, even if it is a small one. And starring Jason Statham, opened with $15.2 million, narrowly edging out Snow White, which collapsed in its second weekend, just $14.2 million, a stunning 66% drop from its already soft debut. I like to imagine that Rachel Zegler was up there on the top of the mountain in the rain with a piece of wood being used as a pry bar on a boulder, and she was meaning to crush the Working Man. But of course, in all of that, you all know how Snow White turns out with that evil queen.
Doesn't she know you're not supposed to golf in a lightning storm?
Well, you're also not supposed to try to ice skate uphill, but here we are. Now, we are all 100% aware of this, and this is, in some ways, it's karmic justice here. And we want the win for Chuck Dixon, because he's worked for a very long time creating iconic stories that studios are glad to make into expensive films that make money. But names like Chuck Dixon don't necessarily rise to the top on that list just because of the way that things work. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but of course, Hollywood is coming to Rachel Zegler's defense. And this is not where we're ending this story, but a lot of people have chimed in over the weekend to show their support of Rachel Zegler. You should check out all of these stories on That Park Place. Ariana Grande, Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu are all supporting Rachel Zegler. It's fine. People can have friends. Melissa Barrera, who was fired from the Scream franchise for saying some things that she probably shouldn't have said at the time that she said them. And of course, Pedro Pascal. I'm going to keep my comments to myself, but that's perfect picture here. Called her an icon. Now, there are some people who say that he never supported Gina Carano. I think that's false. Publicly, at least, Pedro and Gina have been kind to each other in the fallout of all of this. Pedro Pascal, of course, has been very controversial in the statements that he has made about people that oppose his political beliefs. And I don't think it's appropriate what he said online, but he still works for Disney. In fact, he's getting a big movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and he's also getting Fantastic Four, and they're just going to keep coming up with movies so that they can put more Pedro Pascal onto screens. I think they have a goal by 2027 to have him appear in every movie in order to keep the industry sustainable.
If him and Zendaya ever appeared in the same movie at the same time, I think that the universe would implode on itself.
They're like the Ubisoft and the Activision Blizzard of movies. Like, just everything leads back to this place. Now, this is still not the thing that we really want to cover here. The thing that we want to cover is this amazing story by Coillider, which I cannot believe. When Marvin sent this to me, I could not believe how dumb. And I usually don't call people dumb, but look at this picture. I feel like this picture was made beforehand, and then they decided, well, we got to write something, so we can't waste this picture. Snow White becomes the second. They didn't even go with highest. The second highest grossing movie of Rachel Zegler's career, while pushing her past majestic box office milestone.
Wow.
y'all, it's majestic.
Majestic.
This is really something, especially if you
So
know the financials.
just so you guys know, I have a scathing editorial up about this right now on That Park Place. Just like
Yeah.
I ripped it to shreds.
I'm looking forward to reading it. Oh, but this by Adam Blevins, published, yes, on April Fool's Day, but no, I don't think he's joking. Snow White's box office performance after 2 weekends in theaters is enough to help its leading star past a new box office milestone. At the time of writing, Disney's Snow White, I hate that name, has grossed $66 million at the domestic box office and
Hooray!
$75 million internationally, for a worldwide cum total of $142 million. I guess that must be successful. This is not only enough to make it the second highest grossing movie of Rachel Zegler's storied career, but also push her career global box office. I said storied. Global box office total past $700 million. Guys, she's made $700 million at the box office.
In the editorial, after I say $700 million, it's just a new paragraph, and I go, yay?
Here's the problem. She should have done that in one movie.
Yes.
She was in franchise movies.
When four of your movies are Snow White, Shazam, West Side Story, and The Hunger Games, yes, this should have been done in one movie.
This film will need more than that to make its money back.
Yes, it needs more than the accumulated entire box office of her entire career. But big win.
Amazing.
Hooray! Go, Rachel, go! It's absurd. It's gaslighting. It is this ridiculous Hollywood smokescreen that they are trying to put up. I'm trying to remember like the exact verb. It is the story is the audience rejection. This is pure narrative maintenance. It is not journalism. The fact that this outlet is considered to be a legitimate source of news burns me in a way that I cannot describe. Down to my soul.
Yep. Let's speak. I know your frustrations, and I agree with them. Let's continue pointing and laughing here for just a moment. Snow White opened with $42 million domestically at the box office, and the live action adaptation then fell a startling 66% during its second weekend in theaters, grossing only $14 million. Which is kind of funny that that's highlighted, but I feel like they're still forgetting. Snow White also stars Gal Gadot, and the film was directed by Mark Webb with a script from Aaron Cressida Wilson. Just a reminder that Greta Gerwig was the original screenwriter and asked that her name be taken off of it. Snow White kicked off its box office run with a nearly $40 million advantage over the second place competitor, Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag, which earned $4.2 million in its second weekend in theaters to Snow White's $42.2 million. Wow, I guess it must be a good movie. Captain America: Brave New World fell behind Snow White and Black Bag with $4 million. Novocaine, like they're just padding out the article with movies that didn't make as much money. Here we go. Grossing only $14 million this weekend, Disney Snow White fell to Jason Statham's new action movie, A Working Man, which also stars David Harbour and Michael Pena, because the MCU has actors everywhere. A Working Man earned $15.5 million in its debut to Snow White's $14.3 million in its second weekend in theaters. The Chosen also grossed 11.7 million this weekend to take the number 3 spot. And there was a day that a Jesus movie beat out Rachel Zegler, since we're on that subject today. So
not to mention a movie about a storied military veteran fighting back against horrible crimes.
yes, thank you for not explicitly stating it on the live stream.
Yeah, I hit the brakes.
But here we go. Rachel Zegler has only starred in 6 movies in her career, with 5 receiving theatrical releases. The highest grossing movie of her career was Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Zegler was in alongside Zachary Levi in Shazam: Fury of the Gods, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, Y2K, and Spellbound. I gotta say, this is even above Disney levels of cope at this point. I think if they're taking a lesson from the master, that being Bob Iger and the Disney PR team, they would never brag about second place. They would only go for that, $700 million in grosses, or say, we were number 1 at the box office when we came out. Not like that's really that rare for a Disney movie.
I think what we're seeing, Jonas, is that one of these outlets has finally told the truth about Snow White, and that was Variety with its probably Disney backed hit piece on Rachel Zegler last week. And it's like one of them told the truth, and now all of them are like circling around trying to hide it.
I think that's true. She's becoming a cultural totem for larger issues, which is not what you want your career to be. That's what Gina is right now for people on the other side of the aisle. She is becoming a cultural totem, whether or not she wants to be. Unfortunately, Rachel Zegler, I don't think she has the spine to do this in the way that I don't think she articulates her points well. I think she's just kind of a sniping, immature person who happens to disagree with a bunch of people. I think she wants the praise more than she wants anything else. I don't think she's actually principled, other than the principle of self-aggrandizement. So I don't think that Rachel Zegler is ready for the position that she is putting herself in by being, she seems like a bad person to me. I think she needs to grow up, and she's got a lot on her shoulders, and she's not ready to be the person that all of these people going to bat for her would expect her to be.
My question is, what point does Disney stop paying the social media handler? Because that's going to be the day where things get really interesting.
Oh, man. That'll be fantastic. She'll go, no holds barred, no punctuation, no capital letters. She's going to let everybody know what she thinks of them.
This is very similar.
And as always, free chicken.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But by the way, I'm sorry, real quick, Vash. In the article about the celebrities, the reason why they were separated like that is she claims that Ariana Grande and Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu have reached out to her and offered her support in private, whereas the Pedro Pascal thing was done publicly. That's why I separated them like that.
You know, when somebody does something for you nice in private, you probably don't bring that out in the public.
Yeah. I agree. Marvin, we're going to go to your breakdown here. Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, 350 million. So that's making up half of this total right here. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, 135. West Side Story from Steven Spielberg, 76. Snow White at 143 million. Y2K at 3.7 million. I thought that Y2K was a streaming movie. I legit thought it was a streaming movie. So I was surprised to even see that on there.
I would like to point out that the 76 million for West Side Story, that's worldwide. I had to double check when I looked through the numbers, and I was like, these can't be worldwide numbers. Like, it has to be like, that has to be the domestic take. And no, it made that much money worldwide.
Yikes.
This is very similar to, actually, Jonas, when you were talking about this kind of cultural icon rather than a cinematic icon. It reminded me of like Colin Kaepernick, for example, who, he made a career being a really vocal bench warmer. and well, he was out of the NFL after that, never returned. Maybe something similar happens here, but to give everybody an understanding of just how absurd all of this is. I mean, I think Snow White's on track to lose anywhere between Deadline's reporting, I think $115 million. There's no way. It's probably going to be more of like a quarter of $1 billion, because think about it. New York Times is reporting that this was a $350 million production. They probably spent $100 million at least on marketing and advertising for this movie. They get a little bit of that back via the UK
tax credits,
tax credits that they filmed in order to receive. So you probably get $100 million of that back, but you're still talking about a $350 million total investment after everything is said and done. If this is only going to be, I think Luis Fernando is saying 215 to 235, you're talking huge, tremendous losses. And this thing needed to break 800 million to break even. So this is just terrible.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, Hollywood in general needs to focus on bankable stars again. They've been chasing all of the wrong things. They've been forgetting about marketability and going for things that make them feel good about themselves to put them in movies, and ignoring. We should have like 7 more Denzels to pick from right now. We should have a bunch more Angela Bassett's. We should have another Mel Gibson by now. But instead, we've got, and I don't want to be insulting, but since we already talked about him already, we've got Pedro Pascal, who is fine, but
no, he's not.
That look from Culture. He's okay. He's not a horrible actor. He's just in everything. Is he?
I mean, that's my opinion. In my opinion, he is. Yes, I don't enjoy his
It's impossible to examine his entire body of work. I feel like he's like YouTube, where 1 billion minutes of Pedro Pascal content are uploaded every second onto the platform. I just feel like he is in everything, and he's fine, but I couldn't tell you something about the characters that he plays. I think Hollywood is averse to actually putting people with a quality to them on screen. They're more worried about the check boxes than anything else. And Rachel Zegler right now, she checks one box, and that is she is politically in line with what they want.
I think with Pedro, the one thing I've ever liked him in is The Mandalorian. And I think it's because I don't have to see his face. Because when I see his face, I can't get over the taste of a soy latte in my mouth.
The movement is what? Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder. And the dialogue is very subdued. It's fine. I have no problem with the actor himself, Pedro Pascal. I disagree with his fashion sense, but he probably would disagree with mine.
Hey,
well.
He's what masculinity's supposed to look like, Jonas.
Yikes.
Yeah, just like Daniel Craig wearing a dress. I mean, it's just let's look at this and talk about it, because he was in Game of Thrones as the Viper. I never watched that one. It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest, way to go about it. It was fine. He was fine. If you were looking for 3 expressions, he's like all the modern actors. He can give you 3. He gives you all 3 of those in Game of Thrones. He gives you 2 in the, what was it? Narcos. Yeah, that was on Netflix. He delivered both expressions, solid all the way through. Amazing. And then
I would love to ask Lou about this. Is it the fact that they're not going to acting school anymore, or is it the fact that the acting school teachers are just not good anymore?
I really don't know. I just feel like they've given up on the idea of stars, and they don't want new stars. They're getting close with, like, Glenn Powell is kind of trending in that direction. I think Sydney Sweeney is becoming a star despite what Hollywood probably wants out of actresses these days. I think the internet is weighed in on the Sydney Sweeney issue here and made it clear that, guys, you've got someone that people will show up to. Well, I don't know. Madam Web kind of defies that argument.
It's that was a terrible film. I mean, look, you're going to end up in bad films. It's just one of the things that look at Zendaya. She's in tons of bad films. So, she's been in, Spider-Man, which, somebody tell me that's acting, because I can't tell. And then And then you have, her in Euphoria, which guess who's in that with her?
Sydney Sweeney. Yeah. You know, what's funny is somebody showed a clip from Euphoria to me. I generally don't watch shows like Euphoria, but she did act in the show. I just wish that some of that would show up in like a Spider-Man movie, which they've just announced Spider-Man Brand New Day. So they've gotten away from the home titles.
It's still terrible.
Moving on to one of the worst stories out there. They're allergic to telling good Spider-Man stories.
You want to turn off a Spider-Man fan? You could have just called it Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and I think it would have had a more positive reaction.
Yeah, I think
calling it Brand New Day.
I think you're absolutely correct.
Saga.
What's funny is they said Spider-Man 3 ended on a cliffhanger. Like, did it? Wait, I thought we were closing the book on the old story, and then we were starting fresh. That wasn't a cliffhanger to me. That was a bookend, and then we were going to get good Spider-Man movies. No. But apparently, no. What they were saying is, no. We're going to bring back all of the characters that have nothing to do with everyone's image of Spider-Man. I'm sorry. The Amazing Spider-Man movies look better and better the further they go into MCU Tony Stark Jr. Spider-Man. And I like Tom Holland. I'm not against him, but the fact that they have taken Spider-Man and turned him into a guy who was a reaction to Tony Stark, that's boring to me. So I was actually hopeful that we would start fresh. And really, when it comes down to it, it's the same thing with Avengers Doomsday. Like, I would like new Marvel stories, not the same reactions to previous things that we're getting over and over and over again. So like Superman Legacy, or Superman as it's being called now, I'm actually excited for that because it's going to be a new superhero story. I am not excited for this is the reason the Snyderverse fell flat to me, because everything was a reaction to the previous thing. Superman Returns was stalled because it was a reaction to Batman Returns. And then the Batman Begins comes out and they go, oh, no, we can't do a Superman in this one. We have to make a dark and gritty Superman as a reaction to Batman Begins. By the way, of course, Christopher, we're off theme parks at this point. We're off Disney at this point as well, apparently. So we have Man of Steel, and then they say, okay, well, we're going to put in a Batman that's even darker. So we're going to do Batman v Superman. And then Civil War comes out, and they're like, oh, you know what we need? We need to have all of our superheroes fight. So we're going to have Batman v Superman, and we're going to have our two characters, even though we're just introducing Batman, he's going to be here. And it is this endless reactionary spiral. And it is so boring to me to have them just battling each other. Avengers Age of Ultron throws in a line about, oh, how quick can we buy this building? No one is in this building, because Batman versus Superman had so much destruction in it. And then they revisit that over and over again. That was a reaction to Man of Steel having destruction. I want a fresh start so bad. Multiverse is fun to a point. But guys, I would so prefer that you just say, hey, we've got a Marvel movie. It's going to be off on its own. We promise we're not going to reference the MCU. Apparently, Daredevil has a scene where there's a literal Miss Marvel Funko Pop in it. And I'm like, guys, you need to stop. Just make a good story that has nothing to do with the rest. They're so addicted to this idea of IPs and franchises, and then we got to get it into the theme parks, whether or not it fits in a theme park. Avengers Campus, of course, comes to mind. That's something that does not work in a theme park, apparently. It's just there. It's not that popular. But here we are. It's just an endless cycle. Forgive the rant, guys. I would like some good stories. We've been watching movies on the Monday Hangover, and we watched War Games. I'd never seen War Games before. Great movie. Completely off on its own. It is a movie that was reacting to the times. It was a movie about the Cold War, but it's not all about death and destruction. Any death and destruction is referenced off screen, You have a movie that has computers that are just bad enough that they can be misinterpreted, but just good enough that they could be launching nuclear missiles and starting global thermonuclear war. And you have artificial intelligence. in it. And I by the time they introduced the artificial intelligence aspect, I was hooked on this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, that
no
Whopper,
one is saying what they're thinking on screen. No one is going around saying, "Oh, I'm in love with this girl and I need to go rescue her. Oh, I'm protecting this person because XYZ." Everyone's keeping their feelings to themselves, but at the same time, everyone has clear motivations. Like, why can't we get a movie like that that happens to have superheroes in it? Sorry, I'm just tired. I'm sick of the endless IP slop. And the fact that they spent $300 million on a Snow White movie and said, "No, we promise it's going to be exactly like the original, but offensive."
I would just like to point out to the chat 7 minutes ago in our private chat, Jonas said, "All right, guys, we got to move on."
Yes, I know. I know.
Then spent 5 minutes in a rant. A good rant, though. A rant that needed to be said.
This is not the purpose of this show. The purpose of this show is to cover stories. And you just get me ranting. Sorry.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.